Have you ever thought, why did this person destroy me? Why did the one person you trusted the most turn on you the moment it mattered? The Hebrew Bible has a warning about this. Not one warning, three. Three character types, three patterns of betrayal. And ancient Israel wrote them down 3,000 years ago because they kept seeing the same thing happen over and over. Modern psychology has only recently caught up. Today, we're going to look at three people from the life of King David. And by the end of this video, you'll recognize all three of them, because they're probably already in your life. Let's start with the most dangerous one, because he doesn't attack you directly, he just watches. His name was Doeg, an Edomite, chief herdsman in the court of King Saul. David, fleeing for his life from Saul's growing jealousy, arrives at the town of Nob. He goes to the high priest, Ahimelech, and asks for food and a weapon. Ahimelech, knowing nothing of the conflict between David and the king, helps him. He gives him bread. He gives him the sword of Goliath. It was an act of simple kindness, but there was someone else in the room, someone who said nothing. Doeg was there. The text says he was detained before the Lord, present, watching, saying nothing. Later, Saul is raging, demanding to know who has been helping David. And Doeg speaks up. He tells Saul everything he saw, twisting it, framing an innocent act of hospitality as a conspiracy against the king. Saul's guards refuse to harm the priests. Even Saul's own soldiers have more conscience than their king. So Saul turns to Doeg, and Doeg, alone, kills 85 priests in one day. Here's what makes Doeg different from a normal enemy. He never confronted David. He never argued with Ahimelech. He simply collected information, quietly, patiently, and waited for the moment it would be most useful to him. In modern terms, we'd call this a flying monkey or an informant. Someone who positions themselves close to you, says very little, and stores everything they see, not for friendship, but for leverage. And here's what should worry you. This person is probably in your life right now, and you don't know it yet. The warning here isn't don't trust people. It's this. Notice who is collecting information about you and giving nothing back. The second pattern is the one that created Doeg in the first place. Because Doeg didn't act in a vacuum, he was, as one ancient commentary put it, a man after Saul's own heart, in the worst possible way. Saul's story starts well. He's chosen, anointed, victorious in battle. Then, one sentence changed everything, and it wasn't even an insult. David arrives, and the women of Israel start singing a song. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. One line. And from that moment, the text says Saul eyed David with suspicion, with resentment, for the rest of his life. Notice what triggered it. It wasn't betrayal. David hadn't done anything to Saul. David had only succeeded. Saul's jealousy wasn't about losing something. It was about someone else gaining something. And that gain feeling, somehow, like a loss to him. Psychologists didn't have a word for this until recently. The Bible had it 3,000 years ago. This is what modern psychology calls malignant envy, and it's distinct from ordinary envy. Ordinary envy says, I want what you have. Malignant envy says, I cannot stand that you have it, even if I never get it myself. Saul spends years hunting David across the wilderness, not because David threatened him, because David's success had become, in Saul's mind, his own personal injury. And here's the part that should concern you. Saul never says any of this out loud. He frames it as loyalty to the kingdom, as duty, as protecting Israel. The jealousy hides behind a justification that sounds reasonable. The warning: when someone's hostility toward you is completely disproportionate to anything you've actually done to them, when your success seems to wound them, you're not dealing with a disagreement. You're dealing with Saul's pattern. And it doesn't resolve. It only escalates. The third pattern is the most painful because it comes from the inside. Ahithophel was David's most trusted advisor. The text says that when Ahithophel gave counsel, it was as if one had inquired of God. That's not a small compliment. That's the highest praise the Bible gives to human wisdom. And then, overnight, the most loyal man in the kingdom became its most dangerous enemy. When David's own son Absalom rebels and tries to seize the throne, Ahithophel switches sides. Immediately. Completely. The king's most trusted voice walks straight into the enemy camp. Why? Scholars have long noticed something. Bathsheba, the woman David took, whose husband Uriah he had killed, was Ahithophel's granddaughter. This is the betrayal that hurts the most, because it comes with a key you gave them yourself. Ahithophel never says this out loud. He never confronts David about it. He simply waits years, and when the opportunity comes, he uses his closeness, his credibility, his insider status against the person who wronged him. This is what we might call weaponized intimacy. The betrayal isn't random, it's precise. It comes from someone who knows exactly where you're weakest, because you showed them. And there's one more detail that's almost too on the nose. When Absalom rejects Ahithophel's advice in favor of someone else's, Ahithophel doesn't get angry at Absalom. He goes home and takes his own life. His value to himself was entirely built on being the smartest person in the room. The moment that identity collapsed, he had nothing left. The warning: the people closest to you carry the most precise information about your weaknesses. Most never use it. But if someone close to you has been quietly wounded and never says so, that wound doesn't disappear. It waits. So why do we let these people in? Why do Doegs, Sauls, and Ahithophels keep finding their way into our lives? Psychology has a name for part of this: repetition compulsion. The unconscious tendency to recreate dynamics from our past, especially unresolved ones, in the hope that, this time, it will turn out differently. If you grew up around someone who collected information and used it against you, a Doeg might feel oddly familiar. Not safe, familiar. And we often mistake familiar for safe. There's an old proverb: know the snake's den before the snake bites you. The Hebrew Bible isn't telling these stories to make you paranoid. It's telling you that these patterns are old. They're not personal to you. They've existed for 3,000 years, and people have survived them. The first step isn't confrontation, it's recognition. So here's the question. Of these three, the watcher, the wounded ego, or the weaponized intimate, which one feels most familiar in your life right now? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it. Thank you for watching the Hebrew Stories. See you next time.